This is Top 30. Welcome to this special edition of Top 30. We are focusing the whole show on the opioid crisis gripping America right now. I will give you background information about the epidemic and talk to former addicts, families, doctors, and drug experts as well. But first, let's cover off some of the basics. What exactly are opioids and just how widespread is this epidemic? Opioids are a class of drugs that includes heroin, as well as some prescription pain relievers, such as codeine, morphine, and fentanyl. In the 1980s, some influential medical journal articles relaxed some fears among doctors about prescribing opioids for chronic pain. And soon after that, the pharmaceutical companies began aggressively marketing opioids like OxyContin, and some of it was knowingly misleading. The result? In 2012, 259 million prescriptions were written for opioids, and that is more than enough to give every American adult their own bottle of pills. The number of opioid-related deaths in the US as recently as 2015 was more than 33,000 people. That is 7 times the number of US soldiers killed in the Iraq War. The numbers are startling, but there is a person, a parent, a family behind each of those statistics, and one of them is Brett Morrison. He says he tried opioids out of curiosity, but it took 11 trips to rehab and 2 visits to jail before he was able to get clean. Brett joins me now. Brett, welcome. Tell me, what was daily life like as an addict?
Unless you get your drugs, there is nothing else in life that matters. You know, priority over work, over food, over relationships. I have to get these drugs or I'm going to die.
So just how far would you go to feed your habit?
I stole jewelry. I had opened credit cards. I had stolen, money out of ATM machines. You name it. If I could get money, I would get it no matter what. So over the years of repeatedly doing this, I separated my addiction conscience with who I am as a person, as a conscience. So I stopped feeling bad about doing these things.
You actually overdosed the day before your brother's wedding, Brett. Tell us what happened that day.
It was supposed to be a joyous time, and I remember my brother had just flown in from Japan a few days ago to marry his wife, and I decided to shoot heroin that day, and I overdosed. I remember I was still on parole. My mom and the paramedics found me overdosed, and my mom almost had to marry son and bury son in the same 2 days, right? And that did not keep me sober. Those consequences didn't keep me sober by any means. In fact, I was just angry. I was angry at everybody, but I did not want to give up using.
But you have now given up using. Brett, wait there. Next, we'll talk to Brett's mother about almost marrying and burying a son at the same time. This is our opioid special. I'm talking to Brett Morrison, an opioid addict who overdosed on heroin the day before his brother's wedding. Brett's mother, Janice, joins me now. Janice, welcome. Tell me about that day.
Well, my feelings were that we had been through so much with Brett's drug addiction, and my other son was here for his wedding, that even though Brett had overdosed, almost died, I was going to pretend it didn't happen. We didn't tell any of the rest of the family because I was putting my daughter-in-law and my other son first. I had a great time at the wedding. I danced, and I truly thought that would be the last time my family would be together, because I thought Brett would die shortly thereafter.
Such astonishing emotions, but you were able to take steps to get him clean.
He always knew he was loved, but we let him know that we were not going to support that habit anymore. And if death was what was going to happen, we had to be at peace with it, even though that sounds empty, because I have no idea what that would actually feel like. One morning he walked into our bedroom, sat in the chair. It was a Tuesday, I'll never forget. And he said, "If I don't go to rehab today, I will be dead by Friday." We said, "Okay, figure it out. Where you want to go, make the phone calls. I'm not doing that anymore." And he did. And he went in.
Janice, do you think the love that you showed him helped him get better?
You know, he's my child. I know his heart. He's a good person in there. And that person was hidden for years on and off through the drugs, but I knew who was in there. Oh my gosh, and that was the pain of it. You knew what a great little guy. I look at him and I still see an 8-year-old smiling back at me. I mean, you know, who knows you better than your mother?
Nobody. I know. It's been fantastic talking to you both. Thank you for sharing your important and inspiring story. Love you both. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bud. Appreciate it.
Joining me now is Dr. Shari Bamshad. He is an opioid medication management specialist. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. First of all, I guess the question is, what is an opioid medication management specialist?
As the epidemic of the abuse of these medications has occurred, more physicians like myself have come about where we basically manage the opioid medications because the primary medical doctor feels more uncomfortable dealing with it.
When tens of thousands of Americans are dying year in, year out from drugs they get from a doctor, something absolutely catastrophic has gone wrong. What happened?
It's a good question. I think it's the combination of the industry, the pharmaceutical companies. I have to also include maybe bad doctors or irresponsible doctors. And then obviously patients misusing the medications. I think it's multifactorial. Exactly where the problem starts, I don't know.
You mentioned bad doctors, and I've done quite a bit of reading on this subject now. Given that you are such a decent and conscientious doctor, does it surprise you that other people in your profession ever get to a place where they're willing to do that?
No, it doesn't surprise me. The reason I say that is because there's bad apples and everything. There's bad mechanics, bad lawyers, bad plumbers, and there's going to be, unfortunately, bad doctors.
Are there other options beside prescribing opioids? I ask the doctor next. More now with Dr. Bamshad. Doctor, are there other options besides opioids that can be prescribed?
Well, we call it adjuvant therapy, and by adjuvant therapy, it means something to help along, for example, with the opioids, in hopes that the patient takes less of the opioid medication, for example. Unfortunately, some patients are not fit for some of the adjuvant therapies. So although there's adjuvant therapy, yes, they also have limitations in their use, and so it becomes my job to see which patients are eligible for what we can use in conjunction with the opioids to reduce their opioid use.
Well, that was illuminating and insightful. Dr. Bamshad, thank you very much. Steve Kowski was prescribed opioids in high school for a sports injury, and it escalated to a heroin addiction. But he happened to see an internet ad one day, and that is what turned his life around. Steve joins me now. Steve, tell me about that feeling once you're addicted, what it does to your body.
I mean, it's terror, it's desperation, it's emptiness. There's one mission at hand is to get an opiate into your body so you can stop feeling that way. You know, it's a constant spinning around, right? You know, you go from sick to getting well to back to sick, and you're just constantly in this cycle of trying to not be sick.
Here's where your story is particularly fascinating, is that you saw an ad online because you wanted to get help, and I think within less than 12 hours from seeing the advert, you were flying. You're on a plane from California to the Boston area.
Yeah, I was. On the website Reddit, somebody had posted a copy of the press release that the Gloucester Police Department put out. And at that time, I was in a pretty bad spot. I was homeless, once again, living in my car. You know, same story. And, you know, when I read that, it just seemed a little too good to be true. And, you know, when I got to the police station, they didn't treat me like a criminal. They basically helped me get into treatment from there.
Steve was able to get clean through the Gloucester Police Department program, and what he did after that made headlines in the community. That's next. Steve Kowski was the first person to finish a treatment program run by the Gloucester Police Department. Now he is working with that department to help others going through addiction. Steve, tell me about how your recovery helps you work with current addicts.
It's a little different than your traditional therapist relationship. There's no real power dynamic between me and who I talk to. It helps me to relate. You know, I may not know what exact experience that individual is going through, but it's a chance, right? It's a chance to talk to somebody that understands.
What's the best thing about your life now that you are clean?
I don't have police officers chasing after me. I work with them now.
That definitely sounds better. It's a great and inspiring story. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
In today's Hometown Stories, we look at the local fight against the opioid epidemic. From Fox 13 Tampa Bay, John Edwards is making a statement about drug addiction by burying himself alive for 3 days outside the River at Tampa Bay Church. John, a former addict with 27 years in recovery, hopes speaking from the grave will keep others out. He live broadcast the entire experience, taking calls and questions from viewers.
I'm raising my voice up to bring hope to the people.
Our next story from Fox 46 Charlotte. A lot of us dream what we would do if we ever won the lottery, but one couple actually gets to put their dreams into action. The McClellans won $250,000 on a scratch-off ticket, and they plan to put their winnings toward a good cause, an outreach center to help people struggling with opioid and drug addiction. The issue is personal for them. One of their relatives struggles with substance abuse.
I just want to do something to help out.
Our final story from Fox 10 Phoenix. An opioid task force formed by Dignity Health has partnered with the Barrow Neurological Center to survey teens about opioid abuse.
I guess, surprised at how many kids think it's okay to do it and how many kids think it's okay to take more than a prescribed dose.
The newly formed task force is using this information to educate students about the deadly effects of opioids, reaching over 4,000 students to date. Welcome back to our opioid special. The consequences of opioid addiction are very real. Lisa Melcher's daughter died this year at age just 32. Christina battled opioid addiction for a third of her life.
She struggled for 10 years. She was actually 78 days clean. In 10 years, she's been clean several times, but it's the devil to fight to try to get rid of it for life. She left her sober house where she was living and working and doing wonderful, and she snuck away to try it one more time, and her heart stopped. Christina was a beautiful person. She is my only baby girl. She's full of energy. When she was at the top of her game, there was nothing she could not do.
Out of that tragic story, Lisa co-founded a group helping people overcome their addiction. That's next. They call themselves the Hope Dealers, and they are four mothers who live in Martinsburg, West Virginia, who met at a support group for family members of opioid addicts. Now they've formed their own group to help users in their community. Tina Stride and Lisa Melcher are two of the co-founders of the Hope Dealer Project. Welcome, and tell me how you are helping addicts get what they need.
We call them clients once they come to us because we want the stigma of addict to go away. They have to show signs of withdrawal, and we have to take them to the hospital, sit with them between 2 hours to 7 hours to get them medically cleared, saying, yes, you do need a detox center. The detox center then accepts them, and then we drive 2.5 to 6.5 hours away.
Does it not make you feel angry that it hasn't been treated more urgently, that people are dying every day and that they haven't more quickly managed to get a detox center open in your town?
Does it make us angry? I'm not an angry person.
Okay.
I just deal with whatever we're dealt with, and we figured it out of how to get them help.
What is it about towns like yours, like Martinsburg, West Virginia, that make opioids such a problem there?
We feel like A lot of it is lack of sociability, things to do, and lack of encouragement for people, possibly lack of jobs. There's just not enough help here.
I know you raise money, but you're so committed to this that you're also putting your own money into it.
When we have someone that reaches out that wants help, we take them. So, you know, it was until we became a nonprofit, it came out of our pockets for the fuel to take them back and forth.
The work you're doing is hugely important, and I think this interview has been really impactful as well. Keep dealing hope. We love you and thank you very much. And if you want to help the Hope Dealer Project, go to our Facebook page at Top 30 TV to find ways that you can donate. Joining me now is Janka. He's a professor at the Cardozo School of Law and wrote an op-ed in the New York Times called When Addiction Has a White Face. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me about the difference, as you describe it in your article, in approach to the drug addiction crisis of the 1980s and the drug addiction crisis of today.
The most difficult and heartbreaking difference has been the way in which we view, both in the public imagination, but also in political rhetoric, what it means for people to be addicted. So, as most of us remember who grew up in this time, African Americans who were addicted to crack were viewed as pathological. Something was wrong with them or their community. They were making bad choices. When it comes to white people who are experiencing the same kinds of addictions for the same kind of reasons, when we see this explosive opioid epidemic, it's described as these are deaths of despair. This is because people don't have jobs in the Rust Belt, because their communities are fraying, or because their futures aren't bright. The fact is that with one group of people, we see their humanity, and with another group of people, we only see pathology.
But I wonder if an explanation, aside from skin color, might be that, from the point of view of the public and the police, getting hold of those drugs in the 80s was illegal and did involve more violence than the opioid crisis today.
The drug epidemic that is exploding in America today is equally the result of illegal opioids. So it's not the problem just of prescription drugs. It's the problem of heroin, it's the problem of fentanyl. I mean, there's no question that there's a mistake about what's going on. The addiction would look the same if we thought the people were the same.
Why even bring race into this discussion? I'll ask him next. More now with Professor Janka, who wrote about the different response to opioids compared to crack based on race. I imagine some critics of your essay would say, why bring race into this? Why look backwards?
Nobody in their right mind thinks that the answer to callousness in the past is equal callousness in the future. But what it does mean is we can't keep pretending that we weren't callous in the past, because then we're not prepared to do something in the future.
Some of those people that were very judgmental about people who, in quotes, chose to take crack cocaine and other very addictive illegal drugs, I hope they remember the sympathy and understanding that they showed to people addicted to opioids.
I hope that we can remind ourselves of this when it's not just drugs, because, you know, the thing about these moments is they don't always come with, you know, with trumpets, right? They come in subtle little moments when we decide that one group of people, it's their fault, but we are able to extend a hand to another.
That is a fantastic answer. Professor Janka, thank you. Whilst there is no single answer, no single solution, various things are underway right now to try and improve the situation. President Trump declared the crisis a public health emergency, but that in itself means no additional federal funding will be directed to fix this, as experts had actually wanted. Several states have filed a lawsuit against some of the major pharmaceutical companies, accusing them of fraudulently marketing the benefits of these drugs whilst downplaying the risks. CVS, one of the country's largest pharmaceutical chains, announced it will limit opioid prescriptions to 7 days, which is significant. But one of the biggest changes that needs to happen is in how society views addicts, as summed up by a former Surgeon General of the United States, Vivek Murthy, who says we need to stop seeing addiction as a moral failure and start treating it as a chronic illness. And top experts are offering a, frankly, ominous warning, saying that the opioid crisis will get worse before it gets better. Thank you for watching this special edition of Top 30. Tune in tomorrow for more Top 30 stories in 30 minutes. You can catch up with past episodes of Top 30 now on Hulu. You can also download the Top 30 mobile app and visit our website. We want to hear from you, so connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Like, follow, and subscribe to @Top30TV for interviews and exclusive web content. We will see you next time on Top 30.